some shouted questions from reporters. He's in outside the White House on his way to Dallas today to speak later at the National Rifle Association's annual convention. Guys, he
single question. Didn't say much other than his people are coming back from China and we're going to do incredible trade deals. And when it comes to China, we're doing things one way or the other.
Right.
But we need fairness.
Hard to know what that means.
Hard
exactly.
to really know what that
White House has been changing its story during the course of the week about whether the president knew or did not know about payments that he himself made to his own lawyer to pay off the porn star Stormy Daniels $130,000 in 2017. But that he didn't really know about it until 2018. Now we see the president come out and say that because Rudy Giuliani said that on TV, doesn't necessarily indicate that it's true. He said the president's going... The White House will put out more information about those payments so that for what happened here in all of this, the president saying investigation into and ultimately he's saying they're going to put out a lot more information.
Hey, Eamon, real quick, I know it's not necessarily our area of expertise, but you follow it. I mean, Mueller also worked for Bush. Are all of these FBI people Democrats the way the president keeps saying?
No, they're not.
Or I should say Justice Department people?
Democratic process, but despite that, they've traditionally maintained as much.
You could think that if you pay less per trade, you're going to get less. But you know better. At
everybody knew an agent.
I think my yoga instructor Steve is a real estate agent.
We were not going to list with my sister. sister's yoga instructor, Steve. That's when we found Homelight.
Homelight showed us the best agents in our area.
They matched us with the perfect agent for our needs.
Our home sold above listing price in just 8 days.
Steve is picking competition.
Let's go get him. Here we go.
Beardstown ladies have edged me out.
Picking Apple. Picking Facebook.
Blue Apron.
The stock draft captures the excitement of the market.
You need to buy a car, and you can connect with certified dealers who offer prices based on this same information. None of those other sites do that. From end to end, TrueCar is your...
Find some time alone. It's time for a Four Seasons sunroom that lets you have it all for less money than you thought. Right now, for a limited time, all Four Seasons sunrooms are up to 25% off, with no money and no interest for 12 months. Call Four Seasons today. Four Seasons. It's time.
We're getting more impromptu comments from President Trump. Let's listen.
Change your story on
Stormy.
We're not changing any stories. All I'm telling you is that about you're going to see. Excuse me.
You did not know
No, but you have to. Excuse me. You take a look at what I said. You go back and.
Yes, we lost the feed. It looked like President Trump was taking some more questions.
Things have been done.
Oh,
but what I do want you to do is look at our economy. Today we broke 4%, 3.9% we hit today for the first time in many, many years. We're really proud of it, and we'll talk to you folks later. But I will tell you. I will tell you this. When Rudy made the statements, Rudy's great, but Rudy had just started. And he wasn't totally familiar with everything. And Rudy, we love Rudy. He's a special guy. What he really understands is that this is a witch hunt. He understands that probably better than anybody. Excuse me. We have a chance of bringing. We're doing very well with the hostages. We're in constant contact with. We worked out a time and a place which will be announced shortly. And very soon. I figured you'd ask that question. But wait a minute. Not really. Not at this moment. Certainly not. No. No. And we haven't been asked to. Now, I have to tell you, at some point into the future, I hope to save the money. You know, we have 32,000 troops there. But I think a lot of great things will happen.
And, of course, the North Korea summit.
He did, absolutely. It's a clear sign that the president is anxious to talk about this, anxious to clear the air or get his side of it out, because typically the presidents don't talk both at the White House and at Joint Base. Rudy Giuliani missed misstated something this week, got his facts wrong in some way, but refusing really to say in what way he got his facts wrong here, and saying that there'll be another statement coming out soon. So particular facts, whatever they are, but the president had the opportunity there twice to lay out exactly what did happen, and he didn't take it. So that's something you have to bear in mind as well.
Eamon Javers, thank you.
Okay.
Let's talk about the markets now, because don't look now, but the Dow's up now 121 points. So we've recovered some early losses and are now in rally mode. After the jobs report this morning, which showed 164,000 jobs were added in the month of April, 3.9% unemployment. That's the lowest level we have seen since December 2000. And as I mentioned, now we're getting a pretty broad-based rally here. Guys, maybe it was President Trump saying a few moments ago here you have the lowest unemployment rate in almost 2 decades, and not much signs of an overheating economy and the slower wage growth, so the Fed doesn't have to be more aggressive about it.
Well, I think what it is the market is particularly focused on the trade issues. It's looking for substance. Rather than rhetoric. Industrials, S&P, and will give it reason to move, we think, substantially.
So you're sticking with the 3,000 target on the S&P?
Yes,
very
Sarah,
optimistic.
I am.
You're not shaken?
Not shaken.
What's the catalyst going to be?
The catalyst would likely be if we get any kind of resolution related to NAFTA. If we get something positive moving towards a solution related to NAFTA. If we get because this is overhang right now, real concern about it. People are slowing the process of making decisions for business because of the possible implications from a trade war.
David, how does today's jobs number fit in into this whole storyline of exactly how fast the economy is moving, especially when you're seeing a rollover in some of the indicators in Europe, too? So are we back in this economy is moving, especially when you're seeing a rollover in...
It's fine, but the unemployment rate's falling, so it tells you it can't grow fast. So we're not going to be able to sustain 3% growth. It's one thing raising rates. And as for Europe slowing down, I really don't think the global economy is slowing down either. I think it's just a slower growing global economy than, say, in the middle of the last decade, and we just have to get used to it. But there's no sign, to me, of cyclical weakness.
We had a number of comments from the president. Thanks for weighing in on jobs in the markets. John Stolfus, David Kelly. We do want to hit our ETF spotlight now. Mike, you're taking a look at Alibaba off earnings today.
Yes, Alibaba down about 1% right now. Angles. KWEB is the ticker KWEB. Train shares Chinese internet ETF. Big piece there, more than 8%. You see it around the flat line. It's about 13. Alibaba is about 13%. The weighting in this. this one, also about flat year to date. But here's the 41% in tech. If you look at a chart of this emerging markets ADR ETF, guys, against
Jan Hatzius is going to join us, weighing in on the job report, the Fed. We got a lot more squawk in the street.
ETF Spotlight is sponsored by PowerShares QQQ by Invesco.
Consistency delivers. Time and time again. Columbia Threadneedle Investments. Your success, our priority.
I was a C-130 mechanic in the Corps, so I'm not happy unless my hands are dirty. Between running a business and 4 kids, we're busy. Knowing that USAA will always have my back. That's just one less thing you have to worry about. We are the Cochran family, and we will be USAA members for life.
Graduation day, a new start. Now you can begin
consultation and ask about our $1,000 rebate direct from the manufacturer on this patent-pending revolution in outdoor living. Act now. Life and savings await. Life Room. Outdoor living perfected.
Stocks really picking up steam here, rallying through the morning. Dow's up nearly 150 points. Apple's a big part of that story. We've also got the reaction to the jobs report. Unemployment rate falling to an 18-year low. Goldman Sachs chief economist Jan Hatzius joins us, as he always does on Jobs Day. Welcome back.
Good to be here.
Nice to see you. So let's start with the mystery on wages. 2.6% growth, same as where it's been for %. Doesn't that indicate that companies are getting desperate to fill all their positions with workers, and we might run out of workers for some of these positions, and therefore they should be paying them more?
Full employment. I don't think we're massively beyond full employment. I think most people, ourselves included, have reduced their estimates of how low the unemployment rate can fall before you really get a serious inflationary overshoot. I don't think we're at that point. I do think that from a policy perspective, if you run inflation target that gives you 4% wages. Now that calculation gives you 2 + 1 for productivity growth, and I think that's the main reason. Beyond that, yeah, been somewhat lower than I think most people would have expected, and that's what has gotten people to take down their estimates of how low the unemployment rate can fall. But I think it's more than just one story.
You know, in recent months, when we got 200,000 monthly job gains, a lot of economists would say, well, that's unsustainable. We're just not at the point in the cycle where we could keep there. Is 164 kind of the run rate now? And, you know, where does the unemployment rate ultimately settle?
I think the run rate in the long term, when the unemployment, so I think there's still a fair amount of downside, and partly because of that, monetary policy, I think, is going to respond by pushing up the funds rate.
So are there any Fed policy implications of today's report?
I don't think anything major. It cements probably the case for a June hike, but that was already pretty rock solid. And for the time being, the remainder of 2018, I think they do a hike a quarter. 2019, we're also at a hike a quarter, so 4 hikes for 2019 is our baseline, but there's a lot more uncertainty around that in both directions, I think. For this year, I think there's quite a, you know, when the unemployment rate stops falling, you know, what exactly happens to wages and price inflation? That's a lot more uncertain a year than it looks over the next, say, 6 or 9 months.
Dow's up 200. Jan, thank you very much. Jan Hatzius, Chief Economist at Goldman Sachs.
When we come back, we'll have prize-winning columnist Jim Stewart with us, plus former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, Ed Lazier, is going to join Rick on today's jobs report. Let's welcome the Streeties back after this.
Your workspace matters. When it's active, it changes everything. And our new Desk ProDesk 60 electric standing desk makes it easy to turn any office into an active workspace.
The challenge was to create the most stable electric standing desk for hundreds less than the competition. We started with a heavy-duty frame, and we designed
questions help me get to my short list. People with the qualifications I need. Like 5 years experience.
At Fidelity, our online U.S. equity trades are just $4.95. So no matter what you trade or where you trade, you'll only pay $4.95. Fidelity. Open an account today.
This weekend, CNBC is your ticket into the biggest financial Buffett the Investor. Now meet Buffett the Teacher. Influence far beyond finance. Tomorrow, go inside the shareholder event of the year. CNBC.com takes you to the annual
Chip stocks just snapped a historic winning streak.
They're all over the place. And they are all over the place. It would be easy to sec lower. Schwab is the better place for traders. Own your tomorrow.
Best insurers to help you find the right policy with PolicyGenius.com.
The Amazon effect on antitrust, more on the suit against AT&T, and what's going to happen to that Sprint T-Mobile deal coming up next.
Boring. What they typically do offer is a stream of income that's federally tax-free. Municipal bonds from Hennion & Walsh can give you tax-free income wherever you live. There's nothing boring about that. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, we want to send you our exclusive bond guide for free. 1-800-376-4376. That's 1-800.
When it's time to sell your home, one wrong move can cost a lot of money. You need a real estate agent who will do things right. Sell your home fast and at a great price. Introducing HomeLight, a breakthrough new way to sell your home. HomeLight has detailed stats on the top agents and home sales in your neighborhood, so you know you're getting the best agent for your needs. Thousands use HomeLight to find experienced agents they can trust to sell their homes faster and for more money. Go to HomeLight.com today.
Tomorrow, beneath these majestic spires, beauty and tradition reign.
TrueCar certified dealer, and it'll be right there waiting for me. Today, right now. This is TrueCar.
My prescriptions used to be really expensive, but then I went to GoodRx.com.
It just works. You put in the drug you're looking for, and bang, you've got half a dozen or more choices in front of you of pricing and locations to get it.
You never think about shopping around for medication prices.
I have good insurance, but with GoodRx, I save even more money.
What?
Well, they are everywhere. And the reason Amazon is so important in these cases is antitrust cases are all about market definition and will a merger reduce competition. So if the market is small, distribution and content, and I think they made a very powerful case that it does. Not only that, the big test is, are they going to be able to raise prices? So last week, Amazon comes out and hikes the Prime service by a whopping 20%. You don't need to theorize about.
We've talked about it many times, has not been challenged since 77 by the DOJ.
Right.
The other is your traditional horizontal deal where...
Well, that's the big question. Is it for competitors? Now, no go. So what has changed in 3 years? Why do they think they're going to get through now? The only way for them to make that argument is to say, oh, it's more than 4 competitors. So now they're saying you've got to throw Comcast in there.
And Charter. John Ledger sat there actually...
Well, 5 G when it comes. It's going to really blur these lines. And so voice, text, all this stuff will be available to anybody. Regulators, judges are not good about looking at a crystal ball and saying, oh, this is what it'll be like in 3 or 4 years, so go ahead and do it. My view would be come back in 3 or 4 years. I think it's still certainly... You know, that's another thing. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, nobody thought they would challenge AT&T and Time Warner, and they did. Everybody thinks they will challenge Sprint and T-Mobile, and maybe they won't. So I'm not putting any money on this, but at least in terms of antitrust theory, I feel, yes, Time Warner should go through, and no.
Kind of like these two doomed competitors, or are we going to be able to come back in 3 years and say this is a viable industry?
If they want to come up and say, well, you know, Sprint is failing, and so it's going to disappear if we don't do it, they can make that argument. But they have not made that argument now. You go on their website, it's all about how great they are and how, you know, great for the consumer this is all going to be. Nobody
of course, they also have
made
these
that.
big, deep-pocketed backers, these, you know, overseas companies.
So I'm just saying they haven't made that argument, but in theory.
Amazon itself to face any antitrust scrutiny given the president's disdain for coverage?
They built a media business pretty much. It's very impressive. So you can't go at that monopolization case in which you would have to find anti-competitive behavior. That's going to be a really tough
Really
case.
tough. I would add, by the way, I did a panel at Milken. It was taped. It was public with Makin Del Rahim, who runs DOJ's antitrust enforcement, and he seemed to be having a hard time with that idea at this point of bringing any sort of enforcement action against the likes of an Amazon or an Alphabet or a Facebook on that level.
You know, certainly with media video distribution,
but it always feels, doesn't it, Jim, like antitrust law is trailing, not necessarily leading in terms of the changes that are taking place in these industries.
Well, that's
Unless
true.
you go to Europe.
And that may be a very good point about it, but it is, antitrust law has always looked at the world as it is right now. It will not look at it what it's going to be a year from now or 5 years from now. So by definition, it's always going to be behind the curve. You look at the facts now, you bring a case, you litigate it, months go by. In this fast-changing, you know, technology and media world, you know, a year, don't even.
He's there with the Santelli Exchange. Morning, Rick.
Good morning, Mike, and welcome Ed Lazier, my Jobs Friday guy. Ed, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Always a pleasure, Rick. Thank you.
All right, let me go through my kind of ritualistic summation. 164, but positive revisions to previous months. We break the veil of 4% on the unemployment rate. Both employment population ratio and labor force participation rate each lost a tenth. We now retrograded in revisions and now stand at levels that certainly don't seem nearly as threatening as we once feared. Take it from there.
Well, you did a great job of summarizing. I would just add a couple of things. First of all, we're in recovery mode despite the fact that we have 3.9% unemployment, which sounds kind of crazy, but I think that's the reality. The other way I would make that point, Rick, and it comes back to something you said a little bit earlier on the show. A little bit disappointed in the wage growth numbers. The way I think about it is this. When you are at back, think about the period before 2007. We're seeing about 2/3 of it still coming from hours, and only about 1/3 of it's coming going to continue forever. Another, maybe end of the year, another year total would be about it, and then we should be there. Hopefully it'll be a plateau, not a peak where we end up coming down the other side.
You know, Ed, let's take a more macro approach for the back half. It's like, oh my God, all these policies everybody says are so good. Less regulation, tax reform, foreign policy that has potential upside, ugly trade issues that look like they're being dealt with in a way where we could end up better off. It seems as though the equity market, but everybody assumes that the economy at large, metastasized, assimilated, accommodated, and working its magic. There is a huge lag between when the markets say, wow, it could be a good future, and when that future actually gets occurring within the economy. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, let's go back specifically to the issue we were talking about before. I'll give you an example. Let's think about wage growth. Remember when the tax law was enacted, wage and long run policy and the tax cuts are long run policy, not short run policy. You expect the productivity would then show up through the additional investment, and that then would be translated into wages. I expect that to happen.
And that takes some time. Yes.
And it will take some time because capital formation is not immediate. So,
I'm with you.
So I agree. I don't think that we should expect to see things that would occur
without the
right
surge,
now and right.
Apple hitting an all-time high. The stock is up 3.5%. Warren Buffett making a big bet on the company. A lot more on that.
Continuously evolving with the needs of the user. Accessible through the cloud to new markets all over the world.
The business model is completely different.
Yes. It is.
How are we going to handle all this?
We aren't.
People who know BDO.
Indoor and outdoor allergies can stand in the way of enjoying the moment. Allegra is the fastest non-drowsy allergy relief. In just 1 hour, it starts tackling tough allergy symptoms
regular sitting desk.
If you have $500,000 of investable assets, there's almost always better options than mutual funds that improve tax efficiency, are cheaper and more specifically customizable. Mutual funds are a perfectly fine way for beginning investors, but Fisher Investments can give you ideas to help you for who you are now.
Call now for your free report, 5 Pitfalls of Mutual Funds, with insights from best-selling author and legendary money manager Ken Fisher. Call now, 1-800-972-4411.
At Fisher Investments, we help you with the process of graduating to a better future.
Call for your free report. 5 Pitfalls of Mutual Funds. You'll learn about their disadvantages and why it may be time for a new approach. 1-800-972-4411.
You can achieve your investment goals, and Fisher Investments can help you get there.
There's nothing small about your business. With Dell Small Business Technology Advisors, you'll get the one-on-one partnership you need to grow your business. The Dell Vostro 15 laptop. Contact a Dell advisor today.
Warren Buffett on Squawk Box, his Berkshire playbook. A message to
market action this week with the Trump administration in China for those talks. Transports have been the biggest underperformer of. They've been selling off. Those are very exposed to any kind of trade changes.
And I guess that points to perhaps the pre-conversation to lay the groundwork for actual action here, but we'll have to see what, if anything, comes out of it.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, and speaking of Wilbur Ross a couple of days ago before he departed on this trip, the Commerce Secretary, he seemed to indicate the desire to come back with at least something firm in some way, not necessarily a signed agreement. And a number of other things on the intellectual property front that this administration's asking for. We're going to just have to wait and see, but at least for today, the market seems to be taking it as a positive.
Yeah. Well, one big company with something on the line in China that doesn't seem to be struggling is Apple, hitting an all-time high after Warren Buffett revealed to CNBC his company, Berkshire Hathaway, bought 75 million more shares of the tech giant in the first quarter. Buffett spoke to Squawk Box anchor Becky Quick and explained why they upped their stake.
I like what I saw too.
morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Paul, there was a lot of iPhone units would miss. In a way, they did, but the iPhone 10 was strong, and people were worried that the iPhone 10 would not be strong. What is the takeaway now that we can see Apple at all-time highs, Buffett having bought in?
It's probably just a hold. You know, it's among my top 10 holdings in my tech portfolio, but now that it's essentially back to its all-time high, one of the things, John, that I was a little bit disappointed in, frankly, during the quarter was the unit growth of iPhone. And we're now essentially 2 quarters into the iPhone 10 ramp. And with the iPhone 10 ramp, you have hold here, not a buy, not a sell.
Dan, are you worried? Because Tim Cook said that they actually brought down channel inventory in the quarter they just reported, and specifically at the high end. You can read through that they brought down inventory of the 10, so they actually sold through more 10s than were reflected in these numbers. That's why the ASP was a bit lower than some analysts were expecting. Is that a problem to you?
Well, we're still positive on the stock, John. You know, obviously, as you were commenting earlier, the ASPs were a little bit low. Unit volume was a little bit light on last quarter. But, you know, they got 3 new phones coming out that are going to be larger sizes in the second half of the year. That's a positive. And as you guys have talked about, I mean, it's kind of turning into a different story in terms of services and all these other things that they're doing. That's going to be really the part of future growth going forward. So I think it's a changing story for Apple at this point. And, you know, we want to focus on the phones, but I think we need to look at some of the other things they're doing with Apple Music.
Results. We got a number of cautionary comments, also some disappointing results from a number of the semiconductor companies. How should we think about that sector now in light of these results?
Interesting to me. It's actually my favorite industry group within tech because some of these semiconductor companies that are directly related to the supply chain for Apple or indirectly related have come down, in my view, too far.
How quickly the story can change. I mean, so much hand-wringing just a week ago. Oh, my gosh, what's Apple going to do? But today, doing just fine. Dan and Paul, thanks so much. Conference call. Phil LeBeau is in Chicago with me.
Talking about why he acted the way on the earnings call the other day. First, it's important to know that Tesla is the most shorted, meaning most bet against stock on the market and has been for a while. That's true. Nobody's disputing that. His other tweet, they do not have a short seller thesis, the 2 analysts, by the way, Tony Sacconaghi and Robert Spack, out there, believe me. the whole question here is what's going on with the Model 3. Those were a lot of the questions he didn't want to answer. And Musk points out, look, they have roughly 500,000 reservations. I think a little more than 450,000 is what they're saying. Model 3 production. Guys, back to you.
All right, Phil LeBeau, thank you.
Twitter alerting all 336 million users that they should change their passwords. I haven't done it yet, but what exactly happened here? Julia Borson has more for us from Los Angeles. Julia.
Well, David, I just changed my password, and it's unmasked, which means in readable text in its internal computer system rather than having those passwords disguised or encrypted. Now, the company says, quote, we have fixed the bug and our investigation shows no indication of breach or misuse by anyone. Out of a, quote, abundance of caution, though, in addition to asking users to change their percent this morning before bouncing back. Now you see they're back in the green. Now, Twitter's CTO drew some criticism for tweeting, quote, we didn't have to, in terms of alerting users, but believe it's the right thing to do. He later walked that back, and CEO Jack Dorsey tweeting, he, quote, believe it's important for us to be open about this internal generate and save complex passwords for different Dashlane, LastPass, and NPass, among others. Now, I have not yet changed my password on other services, but I am planning to look in. But I do use two-factor authentication.
I did change my password this morning. By the way, and guys, don't reuse your passwords. Those various services, kind of password lockers, are a good way to manage them.
Yeah. Well, thank you for those tips, Julia. We appreciate it, at least until those passwords.
Answers.
Answer. Thought about it? His wife asked about screening options, and her doctor ordered me. Cologuard, the non-invasive test you use at home. No special drink. Just a trip to the bathroom.
Cologuard, colon cancer screening that's as easy as get, go, gone. Cologuard is not right for everyone, so ask your doctor if it's right for you.
Running a business means I can't waste time, especially when I'm hiring. I used to pore over resumes but now I post my jobs on Indeed. Their screener help me get to my shortlist, people with the qualifications I need, like 5 years experience. All saving me time that I get to put back into running my business. Hiring's better when you've got your shortlist. Learn how screener questions can save you time when you post your job on
Paying too much on your student loans. Visit Credible.com before your next payment is due.
It's time for family gatherings, to stretch imaginations, to get together or find some time alone. Four-season sunroom that lets you have it all for less money than you thought. Right now, for a limited time, sunrooms are up to 25% off. With
Turo. Download the app today.
Welcome back. I wanted to share some news involving United Technologies. You may recall a number of months ago I talked about the presence of an activist investor. A good amount of the content of the overall letter talking about its new stake. But goes into in some detail its belief that UTX and its share price will benefit greatly from splitting this company into its three component businesses, essentially Otis Elevator, of course, with that huge business in China, plans in the Trump administration, and perhaps most the geared turbofan. So glad you're here, Morgan, to talk about some of these things. The belief overall, though, as you well know, that when you break up one of these conglomerates, you will get a higher multiple for each of the pieces than is currently accorded. The overall company in terms of the multiple it gets from investors right now. It's not clear to me that Mr. needs to push very much to get UTX down this road. But Morgan, I do have a statement from United Technologies. Several points the company's already discussed. In the past, and it strongly disagrees with several of the assertions.
What Greg Hayes did say earlier this year, that they were going to undergo the strategic portfolio review and have answers by the end of the year. It's not that surprising to hear this, because there had been a lot of speculation, including last year, that Loeb had been perhaps amassing a stake in this company, and a lot of speculation that that's the reason that they were looking at a portfolio review. Pure play businesses, and we're seeing it really across the board, including in companies like GE.
Yeah, the possibility. Of course, as we've discussed many times at GE. Will choose to break itself apart to a certain extent. Honeywell had gone down this road
as well. Dover comes to mind. There's a number of them that are looking at this.
Loeb saying he thinks a three-way split would unlock in excess of $20 billion of value. That would be roughly, or a little bit more than 20% of the current market cap of UTX. But it's something we'll be paying close attention to, particularly after they close that Rockwell Collins deal. again, because it does appear that Mr. Hayes certainly was, if not fully behind it, certainly thinking.
Of selling Hero cameras for $199, $299, and $399. It's resonating with consumers just as it did during our strongest years. And the sell-through momentum that we're seeing and the strength of our first quarter is really driven by strong sell-through of all of our products, including our new entry-level camera. We've driven March inventory levels
And I'm reading here that GoPro in April also announced some huge discounts, the trade-up programs for its premium products. It seems to me that there's potential for a slippery slope here. So how do you fuel a return of sales without falling into a spiral of continuing to cut prices on your products?
No. We were not overly promotional in the first quarter at all.
The growth was 4% year over year, but that used to be booming at a different level. There is a market in kind of an adjacent area, security cameras, that GoPro doesn't seem to have explored, but Logitech and Amazon are in that. So I'm wondering, once you get this core business stabilized, which you've been focused on, it seems like you're some distance down the road there. What's next? Do you try to branch out again? Have explosive growth ahead of it?
I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit for GoPro in the overall digital imaging category. It's an $11 billion industry, so combined with GoPro, we're looking at a $13 billion total. $2 billion of that. And when you consider the strength of our brand and that we are known for enabling some of the best, highest image quality capture of any camera on the planet, GoPro has been the best-selling camera in digital imaging, and we definitely have an opportunity to grow there. So we don't have to go very far afield and grow into new categories to grow our core business.
There's been reports since the start of the year that you could potentially be going on the sale block.
Partner that can help us realize our vision for GoPro and unlock
And still to come, Kelly Slater, the 11-time world champion surfer and early GoPro investor, by the way, joins us live to show us his artificial wave machine. That could change the sport.
The Edge at One Market is sponsored by NASDAQ. Rewrite tomorrow.
Feel that? That's the beat of global markets, the rhythm of the world. But to us, it's the pace of tomorrow. With ingenuity, technologies, and markets expertise, we create the possible. And when you do that, you don't chase the pace of tomorrow. You set it. NASDAQ. Rewrite tomorrow.
Your company is constantly evolving, and the decisions you make have far-reaching implications. The right relation
ensures that your voyage will be unforgettable. Begin your journey today. Visit AmericanCruiseLines.com or call for a free cruise guide.
You'll only pay $4.95. Fidelity. Open an account today.
Volatility is unprecedented. This is an opportunity. We've got some good charts.
I want a higher rate of return than that. They don't think it's going to last all-time highs, okay?
Really look at what performed well.
What do you do with your money? Another wild week.
Options Action, 5:30 Eastern. Sponsored by Thinkorswim by TD Ameritrade.
Hey, listen, if it's so darn bad, how does this market keep hanging in there? The answer's simple. Because as much as the sellers
debate about guns. There is a bill in Congress put forth by some Democrats, H.R. 5087, basically an assault weapons ban, hasn't gone anywhere. A lot of contentiousness around this industry as well. We're here on CNBC to talk about the business side of this industry, guys. If you think about it, you've got about $6 billion in direct spending, about $21 total billion when you encounter the suppliers. There's about 150,000. Weapon. President did that. He took some heat even from his NRA supporters. He's going to come back tonight. He's going to try to reinvigorate his base. From the stock side, guys, majority are up. One exception, federal premium over there. That's part of Vista Outdoor, VST. One of the.
Now let's get to Dominic Chu back at HQ with the European close. Dom.
All right, so John, as you can see behind me here, largely positive. Those European stocks poised to extend their weekly winning streak to 6, wrapping up a busy week of earnings as well. If you look at some of today's gainers, we've got 12-cylinder model sales. German chemicals company Lanxess also raising guidance after posting the best quarterly results in its history. And then British Airways parent company IAG posting a 75% jump in their quarterly operating profits. Also sees increasing 2018 bookings over the previous year as well. So those shares all up. Meantime, you got Norwegian Air down sharply after rebuffing a takeover offer from the previously stated IAG.
Active markets. Risk that you define. Whenever you want, wherever you want. Go ahead. It's time to trade. GDAX. Trading for the way you live.
Your youth was no time. Risks of. That's 800-764376.
My prescriptions used to be really expensive, but then I went to GoodRx.com.
It just works. You put in the drug you're looking for.
Paying how much? And it's $180 a year with GoodRx. This is awesome.
Go to GoodRx.com and check it out. Life Room, where outdoor living meets future technology. Life Room's motorized screens keep quality all at the touch of a button. Call now for your free design consultation and ask about our $1,000 rebate direct from the manufacturer on this patent-pending revolution in outdoor living. Act now. Life and savings await.
reduce U.S. troop presence on the Korean Peninsula. National Security Advisor John Bolton says Trump has not asked the Pentagon to provide those options. Hawaii's Kilauea volcano erupting overnight, sending lava shooting into the air in a residential neighborhood and prompting mandatory evacuation orders for nearby homes. Several highways were shut down and are only being used as evacuation routes. Hundreds of Korean airline employees staging a rally in Seoul. The first time since 1949 that award has been delayed. You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. I will send it back downtown to you. David, have a great weekend.
Okay, thank you very much, Sue. Well, Berkshire Hathaway is buying an additional 75 million shares of Apple. This happened in the first quarter. Warren Buffett spoke with
as much as the second most profitable company in the United States. It's a wide gap. I mean, it's an amazing business. I mean, here's a company that's, whatever the earnings are, 60 billion or whatever. Products on a dining room table. I mean, that is not. That's not the way it used to be in this country.
There were a lot of doubters on Wall Street before those numbers came out this week. Were you in the camp that was a little worried about what was happening?
Well, we don't own it for the next quarter. I mean, it's incredible to me how you read the investor conference calls after reports, or you read all the analyst reports. They talk about what it's going to do next year. Nobody buys a farm based on whether they think it's going to rain next year or not. They buy it because they think it's a good investment over 10 or 20 years. So the relevant question when you're
I mean, you own a lot already, so when you say a lot more,
well, it'll come out on Saturday morning, and so it'll be reported, and we're not going to buy 5 million shares.
That additional purchase, the 12 to
$13 billion that Warren Buffett spent on Apple shares in the quarter certainly caught us by surprise. So I started wondering what Apple's management might be thinking about this today. Insight and advice. By the way, folks, Apple shares hitting an all-time high earlier today of 183.65. So, David, it's been a pretty good week for Tim Cook, just based on the earnings and then this news, too.
Becky, I think there seems to be a lot of people who believe he's going to continue to buy more. I know he didn't necessarily indicate that to you.
No, and the one thing I would say is he didn't tell us one way or the other on that, but the one thing I would say is if you ever watch Warren Buffett,
days 10 years ago, how much more he would have made. Anyway, it is the second day of meetings between the U.S. and Chinese officials as they aim to ease tensions over a potential trade war. Our Eunice Yoon is in Beijing with the latest. Eunice. Problem with Eunice. Sorry, we'll try to get you that news. When we come back, Steve Leisman is going to break down the April jobs report. We'll be right back.
For all he's done for you. At PNC, we're here to help you make a plan today to borrow and stick with it. PNC.
Based on your needs and budget. All plans like these let you choose any doctor or hospital that accepts care patients. And there are no network restrictions. United Healthcare Insurance Company has 30 years experience and the commitment to roll along with the needs of people 50 and over for generations. Plus, 9 out of 10 plan members surveyed say they would recommend their plan to a friend. Remember, Medicare doesn't cover everything. The rest is up to you. Call now. Request your free decision.
What if innovation had stopped here and never gone beyond? At Franklin Templeton, we help you invest in companies that believe good enough.
Can the market finally get moving now that Apple has found its footing? debate.
Unusual twist. We heard more from the Chinese in the state media. They were saying that the talks were candid, efficient, and constructive, that the two reached a consensus on some issues, such as needing to maintain close communications and setting up a mechanism to keep talking. They also said, though, that they were still far apart on a lot of other matters. And the Commerce Minister document that is a list of the demands of the United States to the Chinese side, and some of them from the Chinese perspective would appear to be quite aggressive. Here's some of the highlights. A demand that China agree to measures so that the Beijing to commit not to retaliate against U.S. restrictions on Chinese investments in sensitive industries in the United States. Now, the analysts who have been looking at this have a split read on. We could potentially postpone
Eunice, thank you for the week where we've had a number of headlines around China as it builds its military might. You can read about it on CNBC.com. Installation of missile defense systems in the Spratly Islands, also use of a laser in Africa against U.S. military. We've been following this story, and I managed to get my hands on the speech that CEO Mark Parker gave to employees yesterday. Wall Street Journal did report that there was a rare all-hands meeting at Nike's campus in Beaverton, Oregon yesterday. Random excerpts from the speech. Our purpose has become greater through all of this change. We and I missed something. While many like we are treated with the respect at Nike, this wasn't the case in all teams. And if all of our teammates don't see the same opportunities, we just can't accept that. So it gives you some of the idea of the language that Parker was using in terms of the mea culpa. He said, I apologize to the people on our team who were excluded. I apologize that some of those same people felt they had no one to turn to. And finally, and this is complaints, HR complaints as it relates to pay and promotion, and they are starting with transparency actions on that, beginning with women and people of color. Falls into all sorts of things, I think. Harassment policies, bullying policies. It led to the number 2 at the company having.
Thank you for keeping us up on that important story, actually, in many ways. All right, stocks, back to them for a second. They are rallying post the jobs report. Steve Leisman live at Stanford University. He's going to break down the numbers. Stanford, really?
Just behind me inside, there's quite a lot of debate about this April jobs report. Seems to be raising more questions than it's answering about the strength of the jobs market. Let's take a look at the headline numbers here, and we can talk about which of the questions are and what the answers are here. Revisions upward. Average hourly wage is very anemic for a job market that's thought to be quite tight, and yet the unemployment because people left the workforce and the labor force participation rate going down, speaking against about unemployment. Market that is, and he said he thinks there's more room to grow the labor force participation.
I think there's a debate about labor force participation because it came down so much in the recession. It still has not completely recovered. So I think there's more opportunity for growth.
Now, take a look at these volatile jobs numbers we've had, and you tell me where the trend is. A strong 324 in February, a bounce down in March, and then kind of a bounce back up. There's the 3-month average, 208. Now you can understand why economists are having trouble figuring out where is the trend in this job market. And we can see now where the jobs are, and it's pretty broad-based, this number today for April. 31 in education, so that's always at the top. Manufacturing, though, has been strong. Leisure, hospitality also strong. Construction strong as well. Only a meaningful decline there in the wholesale trade numbers. So what's all it mean for the Fed? What everybody's saying, it keeps the Fed on track for a June rate hike and probably one in September. And we continue to debate this December or this third hike of the year, and they have 7 months.
What if advances in technology had stopped here and never moved forward? At Franklin Templeton, we help you invest in companies that treat every milestone like a stepping stone. Reach for better. Franklin Templeton Investments.
You know what I'm thinking? Sir. Family, our friends. And then there's that $6 trillion. That's the amount retired homeowners have already paid into their homes. It comes down to an average of more than $200,000 per senior household. So, why not use a reverse mortgage loan to access that equity?
Find out more. Call us today to receive a free information kit complete with a DVD DVD presented by Tom Selleck. The kit will understand more about a reverse mortgage, decide if it's right for you, and the simple ways you need to qualify. Call 1-800.
Excitement of the market.
Welcome back to Squawk Alley. Coming up on Monday, Microsoft's Build Developer Conference kicked off, and we're going to have Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, his insights on what's next for the company, cloud. The Dow is up almost 1%, same for the S&P, and the NASDAQ up a little better than 1%. Now, surfing legend Kelly Slater starting a new venture, stadium surfing. He joins our Josh Lipton, who's live.
And anyways, that's the short of it. But I got involved in about 2005, started going after this idea, and worked on it since then. This wave, we started in 2014 in the summer and had this wave built in the end of 2000. All sorts of walks of life coming into surfing, mostly you know, die-hard surfers, but also people from the military and people who've never surfed before, and some sort of special needs people, and you know, a lot.
So, you know, listen, these kind of artificial wave pools, they already exist all over the world. What makes the wave that you created different?
It was like an ocean swell. It's not like a sort of novelty or a low energy wave. It's a strong wave. You wipe out and you feel it. A friend of mine broke 4 surfboards in here yesterday. One of the tour surfers, Kanoa. So, and you know, we've had a couple little minor injuries. Nothing. Here in the ocean.
I think you had a question for Kelly?
I do. Thanks, Josh. Kelly, a couple years ago, I headed to the beach to do a story for CNBC on the business of surfing.
Designing and riding these things, building all the ancillary things around it isn't sort of where my head's at so much, but I do think there's a lot of opportunity there. It's something totally unique, it's a controlled environment that we don't really have in surfing at this point. It's a lot of that's to be seen.
Do you think, though, Kelly, this could really help in some way?
Eating and having that interaction close range, that kind of thing. That's something that hasn't really existed in many places in the world. You know, maybe pipeline or tropo.
Comments from Buffett saying he sold.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Well, that'll do it for Squawk Alley. Have a great weekend, guys. Let's talk it to the judge. And the half.
And one of Barron's and Forbes' top 100 financial advisors. Michael Farr's here. He's the president of Farr and Washington, a CNBC contributor as well. It's great to have you here with us today, Michael.
Thank you.
Let's begin with the biggest company by market cap. Apple shares higher after the Oracle of Omaha revealed to our very own Becky Quick, thank you, that he's bought 75 million more Apple shares. All right, Steve Weiss, getting myself together here.
It was so much better when we couldn't hear you.
That's funny. That's
Look,
funny.
you
I would have
know
used
I
that
love-
on you. I would have used that on you.
I know.
240 million shares, $43 billion. Are you kidding me? I mean, that is unbelievable.
Yeah, and you know how much
We called it Josh at the top. I know most people couldn't hear it. The Buffett bombshell. I mean, a $40 billion position in a single company, and this one happens to be Apple. What does it mean, big picture?
So but because of buybacks, it's at a higher price but a lower total valuation, and that is the power of buybacks. And then in 16 they were down, and in 17 they were down. This year is a reacceleration. We're going to go from 500. Billion up to 800 billion are what the estimates are based on just announced buybacks.
Have a conversation right now about buybacks.
No,
we're
talking about Apple. So Apple, while it's bought back $100 and something billion worth of its own stock over the last couple of years, it has simultaneously done that labor, but are investing in the business simultaneously. You can do both when you're a company of that size and level of profitability.
How about the return of fundamental analytics? Apple trades at a discount to the tech sector. Warren Buffett is the consummate quality growth at a reasonable price investor, right? I think the other theme that's pervasive through this earnings season has been that quality matters. Quality beats versus low quality beats. You've had a ton of dispersion within that. This is an example of value investors, a different style of investing coming back. Active management.
If there was, Michael, a floor under a stock, single stock ever.
And it's an appropriate one.
True.
Look at the balance sheet. The balance sheet's going to support it. While the multiple is at a discount to the tech group, it's still at a multiple that is higher than what we've seen from Apple over the last number of years, because it always sells at a discount to the tech group.
Ironically, 7% of the S&P. So this is actually fairly consensus. It's a weird way to look at it, but you know, he's closer to the overall market.
And for now, now the Dow was up, almost 300 points today, 275. Is this the spark? Is this the spark that gets the market going?
That may have actually put the paddles on the market's chest, okay? Because I think we've been in a swoon for most of the year here trying to figure out what was going to happen with tax cuts and with trade tariffs and all of the other stuff. When Buffett steps up and says, I've been buying more than I normally buy through the first quarter, which is what he said, I think that does send a message.
One point I want to make, though.
Like when you're supercharging the biggest, hang on, when you're supercharging the company on earth with something like this, how can it not be the kind of tide that ends up lifting all boats?
Just let me pivot on. It's a pivot from the macro headlines that we've been focused on every day and have driven this volatility in the S&P every day to the point where at this point in time we're down a little for the year, right? Now you are focusing on the fundamentals again. I think this is seminal because I think there's going to be that pivot, and you're going to have more of a value orientation.
So I'm not convinced about that point. And I earlier this week I pointed out. I mean, everyone understands.
I'm not convinced about it. It was my point.
Right. So I look at Apple, and you say to yourself, okay, thank God this is in the Dow. The Dow is price weighted. So $180 stock has a huge impact relative to other stocks in the Dow that trade at 30, 40 points. And that sounds nonsensical, but it's just the way it works. Yeah. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is you have tech doing better than the rest of the market once again. The XLK is up 2% on the week. The IYR, which is real estate, is 1%, and that's.
We had a bad open.
Yeah,
we bounced back up.
Reversal.
That support held. Pocari's talking from O'Neill's book, but okay, so it held, and technically we've got some support. But animal spirits, I think, are a little bit better. I think people are saying, wait a minute, Buffett's. There's real value out there. We've been saying.
Buffett's not just buying.
75 million.
I'm going to bring some reason in here. I don't think this calls the end to anything or the beginning to anything. This is one day. This is somebody who's got a 100-year time horizon, buying stocks and buying them well, period. What we still have are the vestiges of earnings seasons alike we haven't seen.
I'm going to take you back to March of '09. You can have one investor that's a voice of reason and comes on to this show or any show like this.
That's being driven by software.
When he shimmied, but it was still a good shimmy.
Seriously, but are we saying?
Serious?
Okay,
no, that was serious.
If Apple not cheap, right? I mean, stocks are not cheap today. Stocks weren't cheap in the first quarter. They're fully valued. You do have to look at the downside. I think the market was focused.
Are they fully valued, though? Are they really fully valued? With
yeah.
So you're saying is performing again? Isn't it much easier to make a broader bull case
only because
if the biggest company on the planet is performing?
Only because
its
it's such
equity
a large part of the indices, as is tech, that...
I'm just telling you. Isn't it easier to make a case, yes or no?
It helps. It helped that the biggest ones leading, yes.
But not only for the reason I think you're intimating, but also
I read Michael's notes before we came on. You were talking about the staples sector.
Yeah, consumer staples
being down. I think what we've seen is a lot of volatility around the middle, and there's plenty of money-making opportunity. If you looked at energy and how far it was down, and then the rally that we've seen in energy since, if you look more broadly, specifically in our as much anymore.
Well, they're not quite as defensive.
Right.
I mean, and the others are down, what, 14% year to date? I like buying stuff when it's
down. That is the competition for the asset allocator that would even think about
the staples.
So they are, and so pointing out, agreeing with you, pointing out such and such sector is down 14%, 18%. If the owners of that sector are only there for 3% yields, and they can get those yields minus the risk.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you.
Bad year for bonds is like down 2%.
Don't talk all over everybody.
Okay.
Just bear that in mind.
Okay. Fundamentals will take back over. And you'll compare a 7% probable return on the S&P 500, let's say, to a
whether they're cyclicals or big deep value like some of the energy plays that people are looking at over a month. Over a month. Amazon 12, Facebook 14, Netflix 9, Google's 1, tech broadly, the XLK is up 3. Can we have a sustainable pickup in the market or any sort of something to hang your hat on without tech?
No.
I think unfortunately no.
Yeah.
And you guys are
but things could change, but
I got you. And
like
part of that's
difficult.
endemic of index construction, which you guys have talked about very accurately, and the indexes are made up of a lot of these stocks. Every day on TV. But as you start to see a fundamental rotation, realize that energy and financials make up 40% of the value indices. Value can do well if those two sectors do well.
Yeah, but there's nothing to prove that over a sustainable period of time
so when
they can.
earnings
It's
growth
been like
is above 5%.
a step on the banana peel trade.
So, but when earnings growth is above 5%.
People think that maybe the Fed is getting too tight too quickly or speaking too hawkishly. You have virtual duration treasury relative to what you've seen in the 2-year, the 5-year, the 10-year. And so until that changes, the banks are
worked reasonably well, and I think that with a steeper yield curve and over time,
but you don't have it.
They're still don't count them out yet. I think it's too short term. I think long term, I want to be in that asset. I want to be in that group. Yeah.
I don't disagree long term that you get bored of it. And, you know, it's like line up those value investors that come in, they shoot down the first row, next row comes in, they shoot them down. You have no more, you got to cycle again.
If it's persistent, like energy
I own
prices,
the banks, right?
I know you do. I know you do. So, but it's, and ultimately the stocks caught up to the energy prices.
Over what period?
I agree with that.
What makes you think that energy has this long runway if we're wondering whether
I mean, how many periods in the last years was the U.S. the largest producer of oil?
I'm going to steal something from you. When MLPs were getting smoked, and you and I came on this show, and you said, "Listen, we're going in big," and you did.
And I got out 40% up. I got out 3 months later, 4 months later.
I will.
The big call on Salesforce. With this stock up 44% in a year, one analyst says he doesn't think it's too late. The call of the day is next. We want to hear from you today. Send us your questions on Twitter using the hashtag #AskHef.
Available upgrade in the aisle without starting any conversations or paying any F charges. What can I say? Control suits me.
Times the Insight, 3 full hours on Squawk Box Monday.
The CNBC stock draft is
The
back.
stock draft is a stock picking competition.
Let's go get them. Here we go.
Town ladies have edged me
We're
out.
picking Apple. They're picking Facebook.
Blue apron.
Ah. The stock.
Visit credible.com before your next payment is due.
My prescriptions used to be really expensive, but then I went to goodrx.com.
It just works. You put in the drug you're looking for, and bang, you've got half a dozen or more choices in front of you of pricing and locations to get it.
You never think about shopping around for medication prices.
I have good insurance, but with GoodRx, I save more money.
What? I was paying how much?
And it's absolutely free. No cost to me whatsoever.
I get to save a
Credible.com, where people have saved on average $18,000 over the life of their loans. Stop paying too much on your student loans. Visit credible.com before your next payment is due.
Our data partners at Kensho reporting on the consumer staples today. After a 13% drop in 3 months, the numbers show the sector is a buying opportunity.
Top pick, they've raised the price target to $150. You see it there. Just pushing 125. We made it our call of the day. Who wants it? Jump ball.
This is one of those stocks that I should vertical and horizontal.
Yeah, so does Credit Suisse. I mean, that's one of the headlines of their note.
Yeah, well, Salesforce comes in and says them to upgrade, and once you become a customer, the cost of moving your data away from their cloud and into something else is so prohibitive that they would have to really anger you to want to do it.
business.
That
Doesn't
kind of
fit
story.
my discipline.
Yeah.
All right. Coming up, John and Pete Najarian are with us next for Unusual Activity. We're going to see what options traders are saying about Twitter and two big power and energy stocks. First, though, a check on the S&P sector today. There they are on the wall. It's technology leading the way, and Apple getting
Feel that? That's the beat of global markets, the rhythm of the world. But to us, it's the pace of tomorrow. With ingenuity, technologies, and markets expertise, we create the possible. And when you do that, you don't chase the pace of tomorrow. You set it. NASDAQ. Rewrite tomorrow.
I love my grandma.
As you grow older, your brain naturally begins to change, which may cause trouble with recall.
Learning from him is great when I can keep up.
Thankfully, Prevagen helps your brain and improves memory.
Dad's got all. I think I'm closer to retirement days than I am my college days. I'm thinking, will I have enough? Should I change something?
Well, you're asking the right questions.
I just want to know, am I going to be okay?
I know people who specialize in am I going to be okay.
I like that.
You may need glasses.
To chat. See where stocks trading at.
The stock is trading at $41.
Market updates. Where's the Dow? A cool way to check CNBC Now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sue Herrera. Here's your CNBC News update at this hour. Nearly 1,500 residents have been ordered to evacuate their homes after Hawaii's Kilauea volcano erupted, spewing out molten lava. Officials couldn't predict how long that eruption might last, and that has prompted Hawaii's governor to activate the National Guard to help with evacuations. There were no immediate reports of injuries. Hundreds of Palestinians headed to Gaza's border fence with Israel for their weekly protests. Some threw stones and burned tires. Israeli soldiers fired live. Carter's is recalling more than 100,000 three-piece penguin cardigans. Hazard. Those sets were sold in sizes newborn to 24 months at Carter's stores nationwide. And Sir Paul McCartney was made a Companion of Honor in a ceremony at Buckingham Palace this morning. He was given the award for his service to music, and after receiving the award, he and his wife posed for reporters and some pictures. Scotty, back to you.
All right, Sue, thank you so much. All right, the Nigerians are watching the options market, as always, for some unusual activity for us today. John is in Chicago. Pete is in Minneapolis. Doc, you are up first, my friend. What do you have for us today?
Judge, you know that I love... The reason I'm back in, Judge, is with the stock at about 30, it popped to 34 on that pre-market earnings and then sold all the way off into the 28 level. Now it's back to 30. They're buying the July 30.
Right.
But perhaps a play for some good upside. Second one, Judge.
Hold on. Interesting.
All right.
Interesting that you're jumping in. Ballmer is out.
In the after hours, Judge, and then bled off so quickly. You can understand how people that have been long the stock since the teens would not want one of those. You can understand of like Sotheby's Realty, Century 21, all that stuff. Realgy, RLGY, Realgy as well. But this is a June trade, Judge. So I'll probably be
rig. This one's interesting because just yesterday we had Marathon and we talked about is it ready to break out. It actually broke out to new highs today, just under $20 a share. Getting back to Transocean, they're actually taking off the May 12 calls and rolling up, going out to August. 20,000 August 13 calls bought. It's part of a spread. They're buying the 13, selling the 15s. They're paying about 65 cents for these 13 calls, so they're buying with 20,000. That's a pretty aggressive buy, Scott. Pretty interesting to see, and strong across the board.
Wow, all the way out to August. What's the update you have for us?
Well, you know, just 2 weeks ago we talked about Baker Hughes, and there was some large call buying in there. They were buying May upside calls. They paid around 60 cents for these calls, and actually, I just wanted to give you an update. Those actually got up to a close to $2. Got something in the game to play, but then at some
we appreciate it, gents.
Yep.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Josh, give me a read on this Twitter thing, okay? Doc looking at options. He joins the party to go long. Ballmer gets out this week, tells CNBC that he sold out at the high.
So
And you're still in.
Yeah,
right?
name another stock anywhere in the U.S. stock ...2018, profitable ahead of schedule, and people would rather be in the name at this valuation than sell.
Coming up on Power Lunch in about...
This top of the hour, Fed Palooza. We have got two market-moving interviews. John Williams, the president of the San Francisco Fed, he's set to take over as the head of the New York Fed, plus Dallas Fed president
is The Trade. Who's winning and who's losing? Plus,
Nobody wants jibber jab.
Every meeting can conjure magic, move mountains, and make the impossible possible. Every day.
Time and time again. Columbia Threadneedle Investments. Your success, our priority.
What if progress had stopped here? Instead of reaching higher? At Franklin Templeton,
online doesn't mean it really exists at a dealership. But with TrueCar, I get real pricing on actual cars in my area. I see what others paid for them, and they show me the ones that match the car I want. So I know I can go to a TrueCar certified dealer, and it'll be right there waiting for me. Today, right now. This is TrueCar.
My prescriptions used to be really
In front of you of pricing and locations to get it.
You never think about shopping around for medication prices.
I have good insurance, but with good RX, I save even more money.
What? I was paying how much?
And it's absolutely free. No cost to me whatsoever.
I get to save $1,180 a year with GoodRx. This is awesome.
Go to Good.
All right, welcome back. The busiest week of earnings is behind us, but some big names are still set to report. Disney
happened to produce a lot of lithium, opened up the quota to a much bigger number, so that led to a lot of fears that we were already in the cycle of the commodity where demand gets swamped by supply. I don't think that's the case. I think that the runway for the lithium trade is like 10 or 20 years, and I actually think that most people
the success they're having there.
Who's they?
Then that's going to be a different
investors,
thing.
I mean, it's a story about content, right? And Disney's really
Bring it fast. I ask myself why. I can't understand. Why? And I ask myself. Sometimes in life
party and I'm playing break beats and somebody come on, could you put on a hip hop record? I said, I'm playing break beats and stuff, and that is hip hop. You know, we got to recognize and know what is hip hop and what is the culture.
Thank you.